Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac here. What show am I hosting? Daily Comedy News. I just recorded like 7 episodes of the other show I host, which is called 5 Good News Stories. And on the fly, I came up with 5 Good News Halloween Stories. So I'll have episode 1 of Halloween Stories on the 5 Good News Stories feed on Wednesday. And I got silly because I found a list of the knockoff costumes that are out, you know, like Red Plumber with mustache from video game, that kind of stuff. And I had so much fun doing that. So I'm a little loose. My voice is shot because I voiced 7 of those, but a lot of fun. So check out 5 Good News Stories. Today's Sunday, so there's an episode of 5 Good News Christmas Stories in the same feed. That show's a lot of fun to do. Later today at noon Eastern, I will have my interview with Julie Seabaugh. She's the producer of the Marc Maron documentary, Are We Good? That's out later this week, so we'll see some Marc Maron stories in the news, including, here's one not about the documentary, but Wyatt Cenac was on Mark Malkoff's Inside Late Night podcast this week. I haven't had a chance to listen to this one, been busy with the Kimmel, but you heard Malkoff was on this very program earlier in the week. Hey, Mike from the Letterman podcast, did you hear me do this very program? That's a Lettermanism. So when I say Dave is in my brain, I heard Dave say that in like 1984, and it's in my brain. I digress. Wyatt Cenac has been publicly critical of his former boss, Jon Stewart, before. Wyatt was a Daily Show correspondent. Now, he claimed on Malkoff's Inside Late Night podcast that Wyatt was the consigliere between Jon Stewart and Marc Maron ahead of their one attempt to bury the hatchet. Wyatt tells the story. Maron reached out to me to ask if I could broker a conversation with him and Jon Stewart because he wanted to get Jon on his podcast so they could talk about the beef. And so then I was the consigliere for Maron and went to Jon and put them in conversation. This is years ago when I was still on The Daily Show. Maron and Jon talk. I hear they're both sides of it. I may be the one person who heard the aftermath from both of them. I hear Jon's side of it, and Jon was like, I'm not going to do his podcast. He just wants me to do the podcast so that gets numbers for his podcast. I don't want to do that. Stewart offered to have coffee with Maron to hash out the beef privately. Wyatt says Stewart told him he doesn't want to grab coffee with me. Now, the Maron side is apparently the exact same thing. To which Wyatt said, to me, it was like, oh, you two are the same. I think they both see each other as a threat. I'm hoping that Jon goes on Maron's podcast before Maron's podcast ends. Maron in July was on NPR's Wildcard podcast when Maron said there was a jealousy to it, but it got consuming. Went on a long time and he knew it. And we had confrontations about it and we're not friends. Maron said Stewart told him at the time, I'm cleaning this up a little, hey, I don't know if you remember, what a jerk you were to me back in the day. There's no love here, man. Maron in 2012 told Rolling Stone that Stewart said, look, I've always thought you were very creative, and I'm sure whatever you're doing is nice, and if you want to have coffee, I might be willing to do that. But neither man followed up. Now, Wyatt's take on all this, if Mark had gotten The Daily Show, Jon would be a guy with a podcast that turned into this thing. I feel like the reason the beef exists is because they're so similar. Cenac appeared on Marc Maron's podcast in 2015 when he called Jon Stewart out for telling him to F off for challenging a joke the host told in the writer's room that the then Daily Show correspondent felt was racially insensitive. I'm grabbing that episode right now. I've been loading up my podcast app with old Marc Maron episodes because I fear they're going to disappear or go behind a paywall or something. So I'm grabbing that right now as I record. Seriously, I have my phone in my hand. Here it is. Episode 622, July 22nd, 2015, 1 hour, 41 minutes. I have downloaded it. When I'm listening to all these things, I don't know, but someday I'm going to listen to that podcast because it's now on my phone. Cenac claimed Jon Stewart was more concerned with the fact that Cenac used Maron's platform to amplify the issue when they finally spoke about it on Inside Late Night with Mark Malkoff, and you can hear the Mark Malkoff episode of Daily Comedy News earlier in the week. It was one of the 900 bonuses I put out. We discussed it the tiniest bit, but it was really more about him not understanding why I went on Maron's show to talk about it. It was really more about his issues with Maron, and he felt Maron was manipulating me because he and Maron have beef. Oh, we got to get these two in a room. Anyway, if you like Maron conversation, come back at noon today, one of those bonus episodes. Julie Seabaugh is the producer on Are We Good? The Marc Maron documentary. The Riyadh Comedy Festival is continuing. Many of your favorite comedians are there. Zach Woods went on social media. Put on a seatbelt before I play this audio for you. Are you ready? Are you strapped in? Are you ready? Here's Zach Woods.
Guys, it's that special time of year. It's the Riyadh Comedy Festival. And all of your favorite comedians are performing at the pleasure of Turkey Al Sheikh And he is the head of the entertainment authority over there. And he has so many people thrown in prison because they tweeted stuff he didn't like about the soccer team or whatever, that there's a wing of a prison nicknamed after him where they hang people by their heels from the ceiling. Now, there's a lot of drips, killjoys, and dweebazoids who are saying, they shouldn't do comedy over there because it's whitewashing a regime that just in June killed a journalist and killed Jamal Khashoggi and played a big role in 9/11. Shut up. Name one comedian who hasn't whored themselves out to a dictator. Sinbad in the 80s would go perform for dying Nazis hidden out in Argentina. Mr. Bean would do private shows for Idi Amin. Me and Bibi Netanyahu have collaborated. I pitched him a prank show called The West Bank, where it's hilarious. Like, people in masks show up and eject people from their homes, and they're terrified. They just traumatize these families, and then they can never come home. And it's been going on for years, but this season has been like action-packed. And it's a prank show, but there's also a true crime element because it violates international law and people have been killed a lot. Let's not get our, moral panties yanked up, wedged high in our rumps. Human Rights Watch has been begging the comedians not to participate in the whitewashing of the horrors that are ongoing in Saudi Arabia. Ugh, what a cockblock Human Rights Watch is for comedy. Let's have some fun, let's have some yucks, and let's not look too closely at anything. I'm a hypocrite too.
At the Riyadh Comedy Festival today, Aziz Ansari, a lot of people say he's an upstanding guy. He's definitely not canceled. He's at the Riyadh Comedy Festival today. Also there, Kevin Hart, who clearly needs the money. Do you think Kevin Hart is loaded? Does Kevin Hart ever tell you that he's working somewhere? Does Kevin Hart ever talk about having $1 billion? No, Kevin Hart needs the money, so you can understand. Kevin Hart today at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Also there, Nimish Patel. The Times of London was wondering, will Jimmy Carr, who's been in trouble over here in London for some of his knowingly edgy one-liners, be taken on his own terms with gags such as, what's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? Well, I wouldn't pay £200 to have a lentil on me. Think about it. I didn't tell it well. You'll get it. Jimmy Carr is appearing in a double bill with Louis C.K., who we talked about on yesterday's podcast. The Times of London reminds us Louis C.K.'s reputation took a nosedive after female colleagues came forward to say he had asked, to entertain himself in front of the ladies. Oma Jalili had tweeted, I'm at the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia, October 1st. Naturally a little nervous as the Saudis remove any image with nudity in your possession before coming into the country. Word is Louis C.K. is at the airport right now having his retinas removed. The Times of London tells us the Global Expression Report is an annual look at the right to free expression and information. They rank Saudi Arabia as 149th out of 161 countries. That does place it 2 places above Russia. North Korea is in 161st. No word yet on if Bill Burr is playing the North Korea Comedy Festival. I don't think he is, but I will check. Not sure what the dates are for that one this year. Jeff Ross, he's going to be at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. He also has a new deal with Netflix, so his one-man show on Broadway, that ended last week. However, they were smart, and last night they recorded the 3 o'clock and 7:30 p.m. show. They're going to turn that into a Netflix special. So, in a little while, you're going to be able to sit home and watch Jeff Ross. In the meantime, if you want to see Jeff Ross live, hop on a plane and hit the Riyadh Comedy Festival. We've got a conspiracy, and Johnny Mac loves a conspiracy. You know who was announced as a guest on Jimmy Kimmel Live on Thursday was Peyton Manning. However, Peyton Manning was not on the actual show. Instead, we got the previously unannounced Julia Louis-Dreyfus, along with Oscar Nunez from The Paper. It is unclear why Peyton Manning didn't make the recording. I hope he's feeling okay. I hope everything's okay with his family. He's a businessman, and hope he wasn't worried about upsetting some people and canceled for that reason. We'll find out. Anyway, Peyton Manning was booked on Jimmy Kimmel Live and didn't make his hit. I hope everything's okay. Jimmy Kimmel's in Brooklyn this upcoming week. Guests include Tom Hanks, Bruce Springsteen, Ryan Reynolds, Emily Blunt, Jeremy Allen White, Kumail Nanjiani, Eben Moss-Bacharach, Josh Johnson, Spike Lee, and Stephen Colbert. Now that will be interesting. J.D. Vance. He's the Vice President of the United States. He said he would love Jimmy Kimmel to apologize to Erica Kirk and the people that he, the Vice President's word here, slandered after Jimmy Kimmel returned to the airwaves on Tuesday. The Vice President said He, meaning Kimmel, he tries to say he told a joke. He didn't tell a joke. He was actually accusing right-wing America, conservative America, of killing Charlie Kirk. We now know that's false. Charlie Kirk was murdered by a left-wing assassin who was radicalized by some of the rhetoric that we see coming from the far left. Now, I don't want to play the clip for the 9 millionth time, but if I remember correctly, Jimmy Kimmel said that some people were trying to make it as clear as possible that it was not the right wing who assassinated Charlie Kirk. So, Mr. Vice President, you and Jimmy Kimmel are actually aligned here if you'd take the minute to listen to what the man said. The vice president said, when you accuse the people who have been holding prayer vigils, who have been praying about Charlie Kirk, you accuse them of killing Charlie Kirk. When we know it was a left-wing assassin, you're actually apologizing for his murder. You're encouraging more of that violence to happen. That's not at all what Mr. Kimmel said. Do you need me to play the clip? I'll play the clip, Mr. Vice President. Here's the clip. You're actually aligned with him. Listen to the... I'm fired up. Listen to the bleeping words, dude.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Told you I was punchy. Remember Theo Vaughn called out the Department of Homeland Security? What has this show turned into? How are we even talking about these topics? Today's topics are the vice president, a horrible murder, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Riyadh Comedy Festival. What is going on in comedy? Theo Vaughn had called out the Department of Homeland Security for using footage of Theo Vaughn to tout deportations. That video had featured Theo Vaughn saying, heard you got deported, dude, bye. Theo Vaughn was like, yo, DHS, I didn't approve to be used in this. I know you know my address, so send a check. And please take this down. Please keep me out of your banger deportation videos. When it comes to immigrations, my thoughts and heart are a lot more nuanced than this video allows. Bye. The video has been taken down. All right. Here's what I want the show to be about. Fun stuff like this. Colin, Jost, and Marcello Hernandez, who does one thing really well, and he does it every time he's on SNL, but it's one thing. They've been doing a Ryder Cup morning show. People were a little late getting the news out there. When I don't see these things until Friday, I can't tell you about them. You know, put this stuff out earlier, gang. They have been streaming a morning show on YouTube, Peacock, and RyderCup.com. Colin Jost said, I hope it will appeal to golf fans, but I'm trying to make it very beginner-friendly. And even if you have no knowledge or very limited knowledge of the golf world, I hope it'll still be fun and entertaining. We have a lot of great guests coming on that you'll know from all kinds of cultures, so it's not just golf-related. Most people are not golf-related, so we're trying to appeal to everyone and be a real alternative kind of telecast I think anyone can watch, even if you have very limited golf knowledge. The President of the United States was scheduled to attend the golf outing on Friday afternoon. Joe said, I just hope to use the energy and a lot of fans that are there. There's going to be people in the grandstands. There's going to be people roaming the grounds with the crowds. I hope to use that because where else are you live for 2 hours where you can actually interact with fans? That's fun. Like SNL's obviously live, but you're rarely interacting with the audience unless something's going really wrong. So I'd love it. I'd love to use that energy. There'll be a lot of funny people on it. So hopefully you listen to this thing early on Sunday morning so you could at least catch one episode of this thing. And I'm going to wrap there because I need some fresh air. I need to calm down. I need to actually record an open for the noon bonus episode today with Julie Sewa, producer of Marc Maron's Are We Good? And I need to record Mondays because Johnny Mac needs a day off. And I just want to record 2 of these and then just not be on the microphone for a day. It was a busy week. All right, back at noon and back tomorrow. See ya.